Sup shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we're going to be checking out some more music from an artist named Every Third Thought. This is the Backwards Days EP. I was going to say a track, but I remembered it's actually an album. We'll go over here. We got ourselves 6 tracks. Backwards Days. Woman Online, Vote on the Issues, Mike Gravel for Prez, The Cringe Man, Weird Guy Rock Version, and Too Cool to Live. So we're going to listen through all these from start to finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Alright. I'm liking the punchiness of the bass and the guitars in this one. Woman Online. The drums actually go really well with it as well. I'm liking the mesh of everything there. I'm wondering, is that lead guitar meant to be a lady's voice or something like that? Kind of sounds a little bit kind of beach rockish, doesn't it? Very kind of gentle groove to it though. Kind of a very relaxing kind of vibe to it overall. I wonder if Every Third Thought does any vocals in any of his tracks. I'm pretty sure we... Did we explore that last time? I'm thinking we might have. Were there any vocals in the previous release? I'm going to listen back through that review. I have a feeling, a suspicion it might be instrumental though. I like how that bass is performed. It's nice and raw and human. It's good. It's kind of nice just to have bass and drums, you know? You don't get a lot of that. Typically, you know, it'll be one of those situations where you have to have the guitar kind of coloring everything, or you need to have the vocals guiding you along, but to just have the bass and drums is kind of refreshing, you know? There's so much, like, room in the mix. There's a lot of headroom that gives it a nice fresh kind of open vibe to it. It kind of, the bass line with the drums kind of sound like they're inquisitive and trying to figure out stuff that's going on by doing it in a very sort of mature, level-headed manner. Woman Online, what's that all about, eh? I kid. Wow, we are straight into Vote on the Issues. Heavy panning on those, kind of the gritty guitars here. Kind of, is that a stereo pan delayed or something like that? Kind of giving me like a, what's the band? Primus kind of vibe. Have an old rock kind of bluesy feel to it. Very nice chilled out melodies on top. But the grit in the strings Gives a little bit of angst and frustration to it. I mean, there's a lot going on, but it's reasonably well handled. I'm glad that those guitars on the left and right aren't louder than that. It might just be a little bit too much. Chug, chug, chug. Does remind you of someone sort of taking the podium and sort of giving a big speech saying, vote on the things that matter are important to you, you know? It's been a while since the elections. I think this is the benefit maybe like when you mix tracks, sort of mixing them in mono as well as stereo, because you can hear whether those leads are just a little bit too loud in the sides or not. But no, a really, really good effort, this one. Very different to Woman Online, a little bit more assertive. Mike Gravel for Prez. It's a very kind of like I'm vibing to it, I'm grooving to it. It's the music is so upbeat and sort of charismatic, but it's like done in such a carefree manner. It's like almost sort of, they're almost polar opposites, but they connect so well. There's chemistry there, you know? That crescendo in that high lead section was charming. It was nice and warm, you know? Sounds like Mike Gravel would be an amazing president. Or maybe it's being sarcastic, I don't know. That's the one benefit of lyrics, is that typically with lyrics you will get that sort of certainty a lot of the time, unless they're being sort of deliberately mysterious about it. I like those hand drums that are involved there. I think the change of percussion was really nice. It made it a lot more kind of fun and sort of like folksy, you know, but like, it sounds like I'm traveling through the Midwest. This is what my interpretation of this sort of track, the setlist so far has been. We got the Cringe Man. Kind of a Radiohead kind of alt rock vibe to this, late 90s, mid 2000s kind of maybe music kind of sound to this. There's like a lower resonance in the left ear side of my headphones. I'm not sure where that's coming from. I do really dig the way that, I love the way that Every Third Thought has actually approached that lead tone. It's very kind of throaty and kind of very youthful, full of life, you know? Sassy. I think it suits the rest of the instruments. Kicks are fairly heavy, man. Kicks are not playing around, dude. They're punchy as hell. Well, we got a little bit of dissonance going on here in the overall harmony. A few of those instruments aren't. But again, it suits the overall tonality of the track. You know, you listen, you read something like The Cringe Man, and you kind of get the impression that that's what that's all about. And this kind of like tremoloed kind of pick kind of part here with that lead. It's the rest of the rhythm section, the bass, the drums. Oh, it's groovy, dude. Nice little kind of interesting using that major chord for that first of the track, kind of going for like a sort of a more somber kind of reflective kind of stance at the end of each time, and then you kind of resolve back to the major. Kind of, we're arguing between the major and minor scales at the moment, aren't we? Getting a, like an early 90s kind of grunge vibe. I keep saying, I'm sorry, I know I keep saying vibe, I'm looking for different words, believe me. Those bends are kind of... There's a bit of desperation in those, isn't there? Kind of sounds like the song's about a monster. Lots of fuzz in that chain for that guitar, the rhythm guitar. Wonder what kind of guitar they're using for this. Like a Telecaster or something. Maybe an F-hole or something, or like an Epiphone. Is that the Cringe Man going ba 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 ba? And they're going on and on and not knowing when to stop talking. It's cool, we're literally treating the lead guitar like a vocal melody, I dig it. Hey! Weird Guy rock version. I dig this. I wonder what the concept of this track was. Was it like, when was this released? 3 days ago. So these like brand new pieces of music. I don't know, this is familiar to me though. I might have listened to one of these tracks in the previous. Oh, the bass is in the left channel, isn't it? I've just clicked. It's an interesting place for the bass. Like, usually the bass is in the center, you know what I mean? Or we're willing to put another instrument over on the right side, maybe, I don't know. Oh, maybe we were like... Sometimes people will sort of mess around with the bass and the placement when like the kick and the bass aren't getting along well. typically if you can put like a low pass, like if you can use filters on the kick and the bass and sort of compress them and remove any resonant frequencies, they behave themselves, but it's easier said than done, especially if you use like drum samples and you can't EQ the certain, Nice to hear that bass rising to the occasion. I think part of like, this is a really full sounding track. I'm not sure if, yeah, you can hear that bass rising on that left side. I'm wondering if there's like a stylistic reason why that was put there. But I like how the rhythm and lead guitars are playing together. That was really nice. Very raw, kind of chromatic vibe. That's... There we go, again, same vibe. I really gotta stop saying that word. I say it too often. A weird kind of chromatic passage. There we go. Again, weird guy, the cringe man. But it's definitely rock. Kind of a bass solo is kind of dope though, eh? I hit 979797979797 or something like that. Bit of fuzz, bit of distortion, bit of gain on that bass channel maybe. Ooh, it's fizzy. Cool. Well done with that, then. That was a solid track. That was a solid track. Too cool to live. This is mixed very similarly to how the Cringe Man was done. Was the Weird Guy rock version done using pre-existing stems or something like that, or was it like remastered? I'm wondering how they did Weird Guy. There's a kind of sophistication to this lead solo that I dig. It's got a very similar sound to a lot of the earlier tracks in this record. Maybe aside from the one with the hand drums in it, which I still really enjoyed. But yeah, no, this one's mixed pretty well. Everything's sounding like it has a place. The stereo field, and nothing's really overlapping each other too well. And that was that. That was the Backwards Day EP. We had Woman Online, Vote on Issues, My Gravel for Press, The Cringe Man, Weird Guy Rock version, and then Too Cool to Live. So the question is, at this conclusion, this part of this review is, what do we think of it? I'm not yawning because I'm bored, by the way. Till like 2 AM in the morning doing some mixing and mastering stuff, so don't tell nobody. But basically, I can see what we were trying to go for with this track, and I think that we succeeded. That kind of post, kind of alt-rock kind of tonality throughout this entire track was a lot of fun. It was great to hear those rhythm and lead guitars kind of balance out with the bass most of the time, and the drums. We had different drum kits involved with each of the tracks, I think, so like at least we had like 3 or maybe 4 dedicated kits, which I like. Too often you can just have the same kit when you're doing production, and it kind of makes the song sound all the same. Where if you take a bit of a risk and try something a little bit different, it can pay off depending on the context. It the instruments played well together for the most part. Weird Guy rock version was a lot fuller sounding, I think, because maybe there'd been a bit more compression on it, or the guitars have been brought up. I'm not really sure why we had the bass on the left for that one, but we did, and that's okay. That's maybe a stylistic thing. And as long as every Third Thought is happy with it, that's what matters. It's not like it was to a detriment to the track. I mean, if you'd lowered that bass like maybe 0.5 or a dB in the mix, it might have done well. But that also could come down to the mastering chain. And yeah, again, these headphones, they are bass resonant. I think the EQing and the stereo panning was fun. I think that each of these songs had their own sort of unique personality. They were very short tracks, a lot of them, like a minute to a minute and a half, like minute and a half to 2 minutes. I think that's something that's really valuable, and you're respecting the listener's time. You're not just assuming, oh, hey, I'll write a 5-minute song, and because the risk is that you might be weaker on a part, and people will remember that part. Whereas a shorter track, if it's just short and sweet, nice and consistent, people will be like, man, this person really knows what they're doing, right? So I think it's really important that every Third Thought is writing music in this sort of manner, and I have a lot of love for it. I think it's a fantastic way of creating music, and I really hope they continue to develop as a musician, you know? I don't really have a lot else to say about this. There weren't lyrics to discuss, you know, but I could kind of imagine the titles and how they related to some of the lead melodies and the rest of the overall harmonies. There were some interesting choices in regards to the melodies and how they interact with the instruments. There were some chromatic bits, which maybe if they'd stuck a little bit longer in that sort of range, it would have been kind of discordant and maybe not as great. But again, every Third Thought managed to avoid that, showing to me that they have a fundamental understanding of how to write music. It's okay if people want to take risks. That's totally okay. You know, I think that the vast majority of the time it paid off. I think that most of these tracks work together in an EP really well. I'm wondering if at some point it'd be worth revisiting how Weird Guy sounds in relation to the rest of the tracks. They are a similar sort of genre. I dig it. Like, they all sound similar. It's just the Weird Guy just sounds a lot more filled out and like rounded than maybe Too Cool to Live. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, again, it might just be a stylist. You know, I've said that a lot of times. I don't want to sort of repeat myself, but effectively, I am happy with what Every Third Thought has managed to do today. I love hearing these sort of acoustic live recordings. You know, I love it when people play their own instruments on tracks. Like, genuinely, it makes me very, very happy. Because it's too easy, I think, to be like, oh no, I'm not good enough, so I'll just get the computer to make it better for me. And I know that that's not an easy thing to do with guitar, but like with basses and drums and stuff like that, you can at least sort of humanize the MIDI stuff to try and make it a little bit less kind of... Not that I think that Every Third Thought did that here. They obviously played like the guitar and bass and stuff like that. I'm sort of like 50-50 on the drums, and I don't know whether there were some drum recordings done or whether those were samples, but how people record drums and then replace the drums with samples nowadays. So you know, nothing matters anymore. But yeah. Well done to Every Third Thought on the Backwards Days EP. Thank you for watching this review about it. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to this music. Please do check out Every Third Thought's latest various social medias and their SoundCloud. Stay cool, stay safe. Please also remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you on the next review. Spider hands up.